8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Coming up on Sports Talk Live, we talk NFC North, NBA predictions, and college football. Stay tuned. Sports Talk Live is next.
Beautiful.
Nice. Smacked. Welcome into Sports Talk Live. I'm Miles Garvey. Alongside of me are my friends Jason Cashman and Corey Matson. Well, that's kind of a rhyme. Anyway, let's get started here today, and let's start talking Packers versus Vikings. It was a big game coming up, a lot of NFC North implications in this game, and then we saw something with the Vikings winning 23-10, and we saw a big injury in this game. We're going to get to it a little bit later in the show, but let's first talk about the game as like an entirety. What do you guys think?
I thought it was a really good game overall for the Vikings. I mean, Packers did some things well, but not a whole lot after the injury. But I thought the Vikings played the defense was outstanding. They had 4 sacks for like a loss of 20 yards in this game. They managed to get 3 turnovers. That went really well for the Vikings.
I'd have to say the injuries have probably stuck out to me the most. I mean, the defensive secondary in Green Bay, Devon House, Kevin King, Quentin Rollins went out, Morgan Burnett, Joe Thomas, they're all injured. And same with the offensive line for Green Bay. So that stuck out to me the most. But I thought the Vikings played very well, and I thought they played well on both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively. I know McCormick had 2 touchdowns and 99 yards all-purpose, and then Thielen had over close to 90 yards for 9 receptions.
He had 97 yards.
Yeah.
He still hasn't managed to get into the end zone, though, which has been surprising. I think he has like the most yards by a receiver this year without a touchdown. He's 3rd in receiving behind Antonio Brown. Wow, Anthony Barr. He's really on my mind after hitting Aaron Rodgers up. Yeah. Antonio Brown and A.J. Green, I believe, I think are the 2 in front of him. Adam Thielen having a great year right now for the Vikings. Same with Stephon Diggs. He did miss that game, which I thought was going to definitely come into play for the Vikings that game. It didn't. Treadwell stepped up, had a big game, his first big game of his career with 3 catches, 51 yards, made a nasty one-handed catch. It was very nice. And fortunately for the Vikings, and very unfortunately for the NFL, Aaron Rodgers went out. It's really bad for the NFL that it's now for what looks to be the rest of the season. Luckily for the Vikings, it was for the game, and it didn't really matter that Diggs didn't play. And if they don't turn the ball over, it really looked as if the Vikings we're going to dominate that game. They ended up winning by 13, so 2-possession game. But without the turnovers, it looked as if it was going to be around like a 30 to like 6 point game because Brett Hundley could not move the ball. He threw 150 yards, had the touchdown after the the interception that came through, and then he threw 3 interceptions. So.
And that interception, Matthews ran that back for like 70-yard return or something.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that was the McKinnon fumble.
Oh, that was the McKinnon fumble.
Luckily, Treadwell made another huge play, ran him down. Didn't even go for the tackle, but he made a beautiful punched the ball out, and if it would have stayed in bounds, who knows? But yeah, it was a very dominating game for the Vikings, and they did take advantage of Aaron Rodgers being out of the game. So good for the defense there.
Very good for the defense.
So moving on to the Aaron Rodgers injury, which is obviously the biggest story now in sports, even with playoff baseball and NBA season starting today. Aaron Rodgers is still like the huge story in sports, where the best player in football probably goes down with this injury. And I want to talk to you're a Packer fan, Corey. Do you think it was a dirty hit by Anthony Barr?
No, I don't believe it was a dirty hit. I mean, Rodgers rolled out of the pocket, and he got hit right after he threw the ball. I mean, you lose out a lot of protection when you go out of the pocket. I mean, you lose that rule of low hits. So, I mean, he's treated as a runner when he rolls out of the pocket, and I don't think it was a dirty hit because he tackled him right after.
I mean, I think the same thing. Like you said, when you leave that pocket, you really expose yourself as a quarterback because you take away that low hits, and then when you're outside the pocket, your defenders are allowed 2 steps to hit you then instead of the usual 1 when you're in the pocket. And Barr, I mean, he took 2 steps, and he could have maybe let up a little bit, but I don't think it was a dirty play at all.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it was dirty at all. Obviously, as a Viking fan, I'm going to be slightly more biased. I think it's so hard for an NFL player, especially Anthony Barr, who's 6'5", 255. He's a big man, and he runs probably like a 4.6. He's running at full speed. It is so hard for him to see Aaron Rodgers, a guy who a lot of times is going to hit you with a pump fake because nobody's open, and then he'll run by you and he'll get 8-10 yards and get a first down. And it's so hard to completely realize that he's losing the ball and that he's getting rid of the ball, and that now he's a quarterback without the ball, and you're going to pull up and not hit him, or what?
Yeah, how do you stop that fast in 2 steps? Like, what did you say, how tall?
6'5",
255, yeah. There's no way he's stopping in 2 steps. I mean, that's just physics right there. Like, he cannot stop that fast.
Yeah, it's almost physically impossible to ask him to not do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard for him. And I don't think it was dirty as well. Football is a really big intimidation sport. A defensive player, they're not allowed to hit that quarterback when they're inside the pocket. So when they get outside of the pocket, they are actually allowed to hit a quarterback and actually give them a little taste or a little pop. They are going to take it every single time, every day of the week. They are going to hit that quarterback, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins. It does not matter who it is. They're going to hit them. It's intimidation. You want to put it in their head, hey, quit moving out of the pocket. You're going to get hit like this every time. It just so happened that Aaron Rodgers landed on his shoulder, and it only takes 8 pounds of force to break your collarbone. Really? So, I mean, it obviously is not a very hard bone to break. This is his second broken collarbone. This time, his last one was on the left. This one's on the right, so it's going to be a little bit longer recovery. It's on his throwing side. And I just don't think it's – we've seen this now a lot, like with Cam Newton, who's always outside of the pocket, and you see him getting hit a lot, and he gets hurt. And then you see Derek Carr, who moves around a lot, and he's getting hurt now. And then you saw, like, Tony Romo, he moves around a lot. He gets hurt. Andrew Luck, you keep going down the line of, like, quarterbacks who move. They get hurt when they get outside of the pocket. But then you look at Eli Manning or Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, people who don't move around the pocket, Matt Stafford, they're on, like, I know Eli Manning's at 205 games now. So you're seeing a trend with quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers moving in outside of the pocket and getting hit and getting hurt. So it's just kind of, you're going to take the good of Aaron Rodgers moving outside of the pocket and the bad with Aaron Rodgers moving outside the pocket.
And this is definitely one of the bad.
This is definitely the worst thing. But, I mean, again, it's an injury he's going to be able to live on after the season. So let's move on. So after this Aaron Rodgers catastrophe injury, who do we see winning the NFC North?
I think once Teddy Bridgewater comes back, which I predict he comes back in 3 to 4 weeks, comes back after that bye against the Redskins, I think he'll come back, and I think the Vikings can take this NFC North.
Yeah,
what do they do?
I'd have to agree. I think the Vikings are going to take it. I mean, they have Pro Bowl players at every level of their defense. Unless Mitchell Trubisky puts like a Rookie of the Year campaign up for the Chicago, I just think Minnesota's going to take it, and I just don't see the Packers bouncing back from this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think Detroit. A lot of people want to like label them as like the most underrated good team in the NFL. I don't see it. I saw it last year. Last year I thought they were really good. This year I'm not seeing it. Matt Stafford obviously is still amazing, still great, worth every penny of that contract. I don't care what you say. He is amazing. But their defense isn't as good. Their receivers aren't playing as well. It's really hard for me to sit here and say that Detroit is better than an 8-8 team. And I see the Vikings now, especially with Rodgers out and without all three offensive linemen. There we go. Without Rodgers and without their offensive linemen, I just don't see them winning a lot of games going forward. I don't see the Bears coming back from what are they? 1-4?
They're 2-4.
2-4. They could. It's really tough.
It depends on the development of Mitchell Trubisky now.
It does, but even
that run game is very strong, and the defense is better than people think.
I think the Bears are the most underrated bad team in the NFL. They are the best bad team in the NFL right now, for sure.
I've said that since day one of the season.
Yeah, and so I think the Vikings, even with Case Keenum or Sam Bradford, or if Teddy Bridgewater can somehow make a miraculous step up in practice and get on the field after their bye week, after they play Baltimore and Cleveland, and then they have the bye, and then they come out. I can't remember who they play, but if he comes out after that bye and he looks good, then I think maybe they can win a playoff game. But no matter who their quarterback is, Murray and McKinnon are proving that they equal Dalvin Cook's production in the backfield, and that this offense will be able to produce enough to score enough points behind that defense to get to the playoffs. And maybe if Teddy Bridgewater or they have good, competent quarterback play besides Case Keenum, they can win a playoff game. And they'll have home field advantage because I think 11-5 isn't out of the question for this Vikings team.
No. I don't doubt it. I mean, with McKinnon in there, I definitely think it's possible. I mean, he had 16 carries for like 69 yards. And I think, honestly, give him more carries than Murray. I know McKinnon's fumbled twice already this year, but if you give McKinnon the ball, I think he could be an 80 yards, 90 yards a game type of running back.
Yeah, I mean, the receivers for Minnesota is honestly just mind-blowing how great they are. I mean, Thielen coming out of Minnesota State just a couple years ago, being on the practice squad, and Stephon Diggs too. I mean, if they have a decent quarterback behind them, they can give them the ball. I think the sky's endless for them.
Yeah. Yep, me too. So after our NFC North talk, and before we get here now to the NBA, let's take a look at those adorable perfect pets.
Hey guys, I'm Oso. I'm a 4-year-old Rottweiler mix. I'm handsome, outgoing, and oh so affectionate.
Hi, my name's Leona, and I'm looking for a fun, forever home.
Oh, what's up? I'm Angelina. I'm classy and sassy. Even though I'm a girl, I have a better mustache than you'll ever hope to have.
Oh, what's going on here? Oh, I got it. Hey guys, I'm Mystic. I love to play around and I'm looking for a new best friend.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. Now that we got some NFL out of the way, and as I said earlier in the show, the NBA season starts tonight with Boston versus Cleveland. Kyrie actually going back to Cleveland in his first game of the season. And then we have Golden State versus Houston. So I want to start predicting. I think it's kind of hard right now to predict with all the moving pieces that happen this NBA offseason, the records of teams and like where they'll stack. I mean, obviously, you know, Cleveland and Warriors and Boston, they'll be like the top seeds. But in the West, it's kind of all jumbled. So I figured we should look at award predictions, which I think is a little bit easier to do. So for the MVP award, who do you guys have winning that this year?
I mean, I have LeBron. I mean, it's hard not to give it to LeBron. I think you give it to him every year. But I think, honestly, I think he'll do something special this year. I think he'll definitely make himself known as an MVP. Like, he'll get himself in the Cavs to the finals again, I think. And I think they'll last more games this year than they did last year against the Warriors.
Right.
I can't believe how many contenders there are every year for this. I mean, you look at LeBron, Russell, I even put Giannis in there. I mean, after the year he had last year, statistically leading every category for the Bucks. I mean, if he develops a jumper this year, it's going to be deadly for any team he plays. But Russell's got more offense around him, more threats to pass to. I said LeBron takes this one. Just because, I mean, you always got to put his name in there, and he's won it before, so why not again?
Exactly. I also said LeBron, and now it looks like a consensus, but there's a couple things with LeBron. You could say, oh, he's going to coast through the regular season like he has been, but I think this might be a different year for LeBron. He's coming off a year where he averaged 26, 9, and 9, the best season of his career, and he didn't even finish top 4, I don't think, or he was 4th behind Kawhi Leonard, I'm pretty sure, in the MVP voting. Like, that's ridiculous. No, he was 5th. No, 4th. He was 4th. Never mind. He was 4th. But he's got to be a little mad, and he's got to be mad that Kyrie left him, and I think he's out to prove the world this year that he's still the king. So moving on, Defensive Player of the Year. This is always a tougher one to predict, but I think there's a couple key guys in this one.
I definitely think Kawhi Leonard will retake his crown from Draymond Green.
Do you?
I definitely do. I mean, Kawhi, he's so good on defense. He's so tall, and he's like really the heart of that Spurs team right now, I feel.
For sure.
He's won it twice already the past 3 years. So, I don't know. I think Kawhi will definitely take it.
I also have Kawhi. I mean, his hands are like, they're monstrous. But I think he's just a great lockdown defender. Any team he plays. I mean, he's San Antonio Spurs basketball, like embodied, just hard-nosed defense. I mean, he's gifted offensively as well, but I think his defense is where he really shines.
Yeah, I think this is going to be Draymond Green. I think he's been the best defender in the past 3 years for the NBA. I just think Kawhi gets a little more effort.
When he's not kicking people.
Yeah, a little more media. I do not like Draymond Green. I just think he's a really good defender. Last one to get this really quick. Rookie of the Year. Who do you guys got?
I got Lauri Markkanen. Because the Bulls roster has no talent. So if he plays decent at all, he will stand out to a lot of people.
Okay.
I got Dennis Smith Jr. I think he's one of the most all-around players out of this rookie class. He can shoot, he can defend, he's got hops. I mean, he's still really young, and he's playing with an expiring Dirk Nowitzki, but I think he's got a good cast around him with Wesley Matthews, too. So
I think Ben Simmons wins this. Obviously, look out for Lonzo Ball. And look out for Milos Teodosic. I'm telling you, for the Clippers, this guy is good. He's a better version of Ricky Rubio, even though he's 30 years old. So moving on, Eastern Conference Finals. I think we know the two teams that are going to be there because the NBA is fairly predictable, even though it is exciting this year with all the new faces and new places. Who do you guys have winning the Eastern Conference?
I have Cavs. Cavs or Celtics. Cavs win it in 7.
Okay.
I have Cavs and Celtics, too. So
do you have a prediction on who will win?
Probably Cavs. I mean, I feel like the Celtics could shock them. I feel like they match up a lot better this year than years past versus the versus the Cavs. But ultimately, I think Cleveland with the bench that they have now with D. Rose, Korver, J.R. Smith, Jeff Green, Channing Frye, so many veterans on that team. And they got Derrick Rose for league minimum, too, which is amazing.
Ridiculous.
And when he's healthy, he's just such a spark plug off the bench, too. So
Definitely. I have Cavs versus Boston as well, and I have Cleveland dominating it in 5 games again. I don't think Boston closed the gap with them. I thought they got a little better with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, obviously, but they lost so much with Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk and one more. They lost one more. Jay Crowder. And now Jay Crowder is on Cleveland, and I think that team is just so loaded, and I think LeBron will definitely fix the chemistry issues that you could see possibly happening. Moving on, Western Conference. Now, this one is basically open. There's one spot that we basically know is going to be there, but who faces the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals? And can they top them?
I have the Thunder. I think with Carmelo, I forgot his name, Paul George and Westbrook now, I think the Warriors still win it in 6, but I really do think the Thunder can get to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I had Thunder and OKC. I mean, Golden State's going to be there again. They added Nick Young and Omri Caspi, so that's even more three-point shooting when Steph and Clay are on the bench. OKC obviously added, Russell and Carmelo and Paul George. You kind of got to mention Houston adding Chris Paul and keep Harden. Spurs also added Rudy Gay. They're always in contention too. So, I mean, they're always up there, but I'm going to say OKC, Golden State, and ultimately, I'm going to say OKC is going to upset them.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So I actually have Golden State versus Houston, and I think Golden State takes them out in 6 games. I think Houston will just have. They're going to have Mike D'Antoni, who's got this amazing offense when he has the right pieces. And he's got the right pieces. He's got guys who are going to run the floor, space, pass. James Harden and Chris Paul have both proven that they are not selfish guys. They're going to be able to pass. James Harden said he's finally able to catch and shoot for the first time in 5 years. He hasn't been able to do that. And he's so excited for it. But I still think a force of Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson is not a force that anybody can beat besides Cleveland. And it's just, barring injury, I don't see anybody taking the Warriors out of the West. Even though teams have closed the gap, it's still a gap. And it's still going to be proven through a 7-game series because always the best team wins in the 7-game series.
Yes.
So moving on now, that we did Eastern Conference and Western Conference, and we both said the Cavs would win, and we both said the Warriors would win. You said the Warriors are going to be out, so you're not saying Cleveland, Golden State round 4. So you have Cleveland versus OKC. Who do you think wins that one?
I still think Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to win. I think they're just the depth from them, and they added just so many key pieces. They lost Richard Jefferson and a veteran, but he's getting up there in age. I think he's like 37 years old now.
Yeah.
But I mean, they lost Kyrie too, which is a key blow. But they got Isaiah Thomas, LeBron, Wade, K-Love. I mean, just that lineup alone, just starters, is just scary to any team.
Yes.
That just sounds deadly.
It sounds scary, is what it does.
It sounds very scary. But I have Warriors versus Cavs. Warriors win it in 6.
That's closer, though. It's closer. So you think Cleveland did get closer?
I think Cleveland got very closer, but with Steph, Clay, and KD, I think it's just so hard to overcome that.
I think it's definitely very hard. I have Cleveland winning in 7. Ooh. And why is because LeBron is still the best player in the world. And there's no debate. People try to tell me KD. I'm like, just go look at the games. It's not even close. It's so much different. And then LeBron last year in the finals, when he was on the floor, Cleveland was beating Golden State. Like they were winning by like I think 2 points. When LeBron had like a +2 plus minus in the 5 games, and I think when he was off the floor, the Cleveland was like minus like 47 or something ridiculous. So now when he goes to the bench with D Wade, D Rose, Jeff Green, Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith coming off the bench, Isaiah Thomas, you're not going to see such a big collapse. And yeah, last year you were thinking, well, I mean, they have Kyrie and Kevin Love. How is the collapse? It's just, I think this is different. You have Jay Crowder, who's going to be a tough-nosed guy. Isaiah Thomas, tough-nosed guy. D Wade, tough-nosed guy. Derrick Rose, proving from coming back from all these injuries, tough-nosed guy. These are Jeff Green is a tough guy. They're not going to just allow themselves to get absolutely manhandled when LeBron's not off the floor. And you're going to see now with this lineup that they have, Isaiah Thomas, he is definitely
Scorer.
He's a productive scorer, but he's a wow, why can't I think of the word? Whatever. He's a bad thing on defense, a reliability. There's the word. I was saying it, but it wasn't right. Anyway, a reliability on defense. It's wrong? Yeah, it's wrong. Liability.
Liability on defense.
Go me. Anyway, he's a liability on defense, and that is going to be a problem. But you still have D Wade to guard Klay Thompson. Now you can have LeBron play off of Draymond Green and be that kind of floater, center field type guy. And he's going to be very dominant in that when you have Jay Crowder guarding Kevin Durant. Anyway, instead of having to listen here and me stumble over my words, let's go look at the promo for the Comm Club. Welcome back to Sports Talk Live. Let's get into, hopefully, a segment of non-stumbling over words and correct usage of words. Let's go into college football. So we're right here, smack dab in Big Ten country. Who do you guys think is going to win the Big Ten this year? Because I see 3 contenders. You have Wisconsin, you have Penn State, and you have Ohio State. Of those 3, who do you think's big dog?
I think Penn State. It's going to be Penn State versus Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship, and I think Penn State wins it with Saquon Barkley. I think it's just so hard to stop him.
It is definitely very hard to stop him. He's one of the best players in all of college football.
Yes.
I'd say Ohio State. I think they're too good. They have so much depth. They bounced back well after they lost to Oklahoma. Their points for is 223 to 49 this year, which is insane to think about. JT Barrett, he seems like he's been there forever. He's got 21 TDs, 1 interception. The next game is actually versus Penn State on the 28th, so I'm looking forward to that one. To see a Saquon Barkley, Heisman contender, who leads his team in rushing and receiving yards, can pull out. But I think Ohio State's going to come out of the East. And then you have Wisconsin, too, out of the West. They don't really have much contenders, maybe Nebraska. But, I mean, they got absolutely manhandled by Ohio State.
Yeah.
And Iowa in any college football playoff is not that good. So.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, Wisconsin's defense, led by, Jim Leonard, of course, the former safety out of Wisconsin, was going to come out of the West, but I think Ohio State's going to beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, I definitely think it is between Penn State and Ohio State. Whoever makes it to the Big Ten championship is going to win this. And I think it's going to be Ohio State, and I got some reasons why. I'm not just being a biased fan. Penn State is going to play Michigan this week. Ohio State has a bye. So Ohio State's going to have 2 weeks now to prepare for Penn State. Penn State's going to be coming off what's going to be a tough game versus Michigan. Then they have to go into Columbus and play Ohio State. And you're going to see Saquon Barkley, who accounts for 38% of Penn State's offense, and I saw one game he had 11 touches of their first 20 possessions. It's going to be really tough for them to get the same kind of production out of Saquon Barkley. Ohio State's going to come out like they did Melvin Gordon versus Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship a couple years ago. Melvin Gordon was everything for that Wisconsin offense, and he had 75 yards rushing and they absolutely dominated the game. Ohio State won 59-0. And I think you're going to see, not to the same extent, because I think Penn State's a little bit better team than that Wisconsin team was. And I think you're going to see Ohio State with that, with the defensive line, the best defensive line in the country. They have like 5 or 6 NFL players on that defensive line. Like 4 of them are first rounders, and Nick Bosa, Jalen Holmes, Tyquan Lewis. So I think you're going to see them absolutely be able to dominate Saquon Barkley, win that game, and whoever wins that game goes to the Big Ten Championship. And I think Ohio State is able to dominate Wisconsin in that.
See, the only thing where I disagree where they're going to have a tough time is against Michigan. Honestly, I think they'll wipe the floor with Michigan. I don't think Michigan's as good as people think they are. I get it, they're ranked 19th in the country. I understand that. But I just don't think they're as good as people think. So I think they won't have as tough of a game this weekend as people think they will.
I think you're underestimating Jim Harbaugh just a teeny bit, and I hate Michigan, but I think they're a little bit better than people want to give them credit for. They're just slumping a little bit right now, as young teams do. Anyway, so let's look at the college football playoff. Obviously, we think a Big Ten team is going to get in. I don't think if Penn State's undefeated or Wisconsin's undefeated or Ohio State one loss, I don't think a one-loss Big Ten team gets left out of the college football playoff. So who do you think will make it into the college football playoff?
My 4 teams are Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma will sneak they will fight their way back into the college playoffs.
Okay.
I have Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Alabama, of course. I can't leave out Alabama. I mean, Nick Saban's so consistent in what he does there. I can't believe this week, actually, that 7 ranked teams lost to unranked opponents, and 4 of those came in the top 10. So it's been a crazy week for college football, but ultimately I have Ohio State in the college football playoffs and taking it all.
I think the problem with yours is you have 2 SEC teams, and I just don't think with 4, obviously unless you're just ranking them now instead of predicting, but for me, I just don't think 2 teams from the same conference get in until they expand the playoff, which is obviously going to happen at some point. So I think it's going to be Georgia or Alabama, and I just don't see Georgia being able to be the team to actually knock off Nick Saban and Alabama, although they are a very good team. And I actually have 1 being Alabama. I think Ohio State going to be the 2 seed, and then I think TCU is the 3. I think TCU is the undefeated Big 12 team. I think they're going to go in. They just have to win. That's all they got to do. They got to win. The Big 12 actually added a championship game now, so I think they're actually a real threat to get in the college football playoff. And then I have Clemson being the 4 seed, and I think with USC struggling and with Washington losing and Washington State losing, I think you're just seeing now that the Pac-12 might be the team that actually gets left out of the college football playoff this year, for sure.
I could definitely see that. I mean, I definitely could see how TCU would get in with that, now that they have their championship game. I don't know. I really think that the Alabama and Georgia teams are both really good, and to leave one of them out would be a shame.
I definitely think that too, but it's going to come down whoever wins that SEC title game. I believe Georgia and Alabama are on different sides of the SEC. I'm not 100% sure. So they are going, they should definitely meet, and I think they will. College football is kind of easy to predict. So I think they're going to meet in that SEC championship, and it's not going to be one where I think both of them move into the college football playoff. It's just going to be whoever wins that game. So basically, we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've talked NFL, we've talked NBA, and we've talked college football. I want to give you 2 a chance to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So Jason, start us off.
Okay, well, first thing I'm going to talk about is the Bears' development of Mitchell Trubisky so far. They are not letting him throw the ball at all down the field. They let him through 8 for 16 for 113 yards and 1 touchdown, 16 pass attempts, but 6 of those they threw out of bounds. It's just, I get it. The Bears' run game is honestly amazing. They had 200 rush yards in the game, against Baltimore's defense, who is no joke. Baltimore's defense is always a solid defense to play against. But I think you have to let Trubisky throw the ball at least 20 times, at least. Corey?
Yeah, mine's going to be on the U.S. men's national team for soccer. I mean, I just can't believe how we lose to Trinidad and Tobago. A country of 1.3 million people is beating a country with over 300 million. I mean, this is what we get when we send out 30-year-old MLS players who are well-washed in their careers. And it's just a major step back for the U.S., and it's tough to think that we won't be able to see them until the 2022 World Cup. So.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. This has been Sports Talk Live. I'm Miles Garvey. This is Jason Cashman, and that is Corey Matson. Thank you guys for tuning in.